Black Labor, White Wealth by Claud Anderson is a comprehensive exploration of the economic, political, and social structures that have kept African Americans in a state of economic disadvantage. Through a combination of detailed research and vivid personal stories, Anderson paints a vivid picture of the historic and present-day realities of inequality between African Americans and whites. Anderson begins his book by detailing the history of African American labor and the economic disadvantages African Americans have faced since the end of slavery. He then moves into a discussion about the present-day effects of this history, noting that African Americans still experience economic disadvantages due to systemic racism and discrimination. Anderson uses statistics, legal documents, and personal stories to show how African Americans are still at a disadvantage due to their lower income and wealth levels, their lack of access to capital and other resources, and their higher rates of unemployment and incarceration. Anderson then outlines the various strategies African Americans can use to improve their economic situation. He suggests that African Americans should focus on economic self-sufficiency by utilizing self-help initiatives such as cooperative economics, small business ownership, and worker-owned cooperatives. He also suggests that African Americans should work to increase their access to capital and resources by advocating for greater access to credit and other financial services. Finally, Anderson argues that African Americans should invest in their communities by helping to create jobs, providing financial education, and supporting local businesses. Anderson's book is an important contribution to the conversation about economic inequality and race in America. It provides an in-depth look at the history of economic inequality and its continued effects on African Americans, as well as tangible strategies for African Americans to use to improve their economic situation. That's it. Thank you so much for tuning in.